Hey there! For this video, I'll be walking through some basic cosplay materials and techniques that we can use, and you don't even need a sewing machine. Cheap fabrics like broadcloth are good to have on hand, and saving old scraps from projects can come in handy later. Even this old t-shirt is great to have. Styrofoam is awesome because you can get it for cheap and even save it up from old packages, but keep in mind it's not very durable. This is a craft foam sheet that you can get for under $1 at any craft store. It's very thin and can be used for a variety of reasons. There are thicker foams like Ava foam or this generic form, which can be molded with heat and are pretty durable. Not technically a foam, but thermoplastics like Warbler or this generic brand are great for making plated armors. For really big props, consider investing in XPS insulation foam from hardware stores like Home Depot. I wouldn't recommend this for a beginner. Let's move on to adhesives. Every cosplayer needs a hot glue gun. This is a cheap one from a craft store, but there are better ones. Mod Podge is a great glue, but it's also a sealer and a finish. Spray adhesive is my favorite because it helps foam stick together. I'm not such a big fan of styro glue, but industrial strength or super glues like E6000 are a must-have. One of the most important tools is a heat gun. It helps mold foam, and there are other uses. Sanding tools like sandpaper and different grits are essential, as are blades like scissors and X-Acto knives, which come in handy for everything. A drill like a Dremel is also great for sanding and cutting. It comes with different extensions. As I said before, Mod Podge is a great primer. I like this Plasti-Dip because it can be sprayed on, but there's also more industrial strength ones like automotive primer. Some people prefer something like wood glue. You can actually use many different types of glues as sealers. As for paints, you can never go wrong with having some acrylic around. I found that these paint pens come in handy. You also want to have a supply of fabric paint on hand if you're working with a lot of clothing. But spray paint is always your best friend. Have it in many colors. For the rest of this video, I'll be working on the super crown that Princess Peach uses to transform into Peachette in New Super Mario Bros. U. First, I measure out my foam. I mark places with a white marker. Don't worry about this, because any marks you put on the foam will be covered up by paint and primer later. Peach's crown has 4 points, so here I am calculating how wide each point has to be and the midpoint of each point on the crown. You don't have to be this mathematical about your steps. You can choose to be more freeform, or you can calculate more exactly. I just prefer to know exactly where my points are going to be, to make sure that they'll be even. Then I cut out each bit with an X-Acto knife and trim with scissors to make sure that the lines are straight. For the middle of the crown, there's a pink fabric with dots. I calculate how wide the fabric should be based on the circumference of the crown. And then I cut out a 6-inch square, roughly. I made the white circles with an empty container I found laying around and attempted to color them in with acrylic paint. I will work on this more later. I used Mod Podge to connect pieces of foam together because I didn't quite have a wide enough piece of foam sheet. Then I used this white foam sheet to make the edge of the crown, which is kind of rounded on Peach. I hot glue it on and fold it over to make a beveled edge. Now that I've got the crown assembled with hot glue, I decided to use my heat gun to shape it a little bit more into a circle because some of the corners are square-like. Then I need to figure out how to create the balls on top of the points of the crown. For this, I had many options, but I decided to use hot glue in a silicone mold. I know silicone molds aren't exactly a basic material, but this is what I happen to have on hand. Otherwise, I'd use beads, foam clay, or foam balls. I pressed the hot tip of the glue gun to the balls to make a sticky edge to stick them onto the points. Then I went back over everything that I had prepared with Mod Podge to prime it for paint. I Mod Podged the pink fabric again just because it wasn't taking the white paint very well. I'm using Plasti Dip on the crown to create even coverage. It's going to turn the crown completely black and create a layer that will protect the foam from paint later on. 3 coats of Plasti Dip and it's ready for painting. I took it inside and I really wish I had gold spray paint, but I don't, so I have to improvise because I'm stuck in my house and I'm using whatever I have on hand. I tried using this gold pour paint, which has a low viscosity for pouring so that it will drip onto the canvas. But that's not exactly good for brushing. So I switched up my plans and went to this copper acrylic paint. This isn't the right color, but it'll work better for what I need. I'll have to improvise to change the color later. I painted on several layers of acrylic paint and got this result. Now to make it gold, the only pigment I had on hand was this gold mica powder from Stardust Micas. I do not expect everyone to have mica powder. This is not a basic tool. Once again, if you have gold spray paint, please use that. But this is what I had on hand, so I went with it. After a layer of mica powder, I went with this Krylon Kmart varnish because the powder will come off on your hands if you don't coat it in something. So I went for 2 coats of the varnish before brushing on more powder and varnishing again. And here's my result. A shiny gold crown. Peach's Super Crown has 2 elongated oval black eyes in the center. So I pick a face that I want to be the front of my crown and start drawing the eyes with my black acrylic paint pen. The pigment is great, and I only have to go over it 2 times. The only part left is to create the pink fabric inside with the 2 white circles that I painted several layers on. I regret this part the most because I could have cut the pink fabric much bigger, but I'm just going to go with it. I put 3 styrofoam half spheres into the center of the pink fabric to make it have more lift and depth when it's on my head. Then I glue the pink fabric to the perimeter of the crown. However, I have to readjust it and fix it several times to get it the way I want it. This takes some time. Finally, I glue this soft fabric on the inside of the crown to make it more comfortable on my head. And then I affix some clips to the sides so that it won't fall off. I didn't make a Princess Peach cosplay yet, but this is the crown and the final look. Thanks for watching.